From Interfaith Alliance, this is The State of Belief. I'm Interfaith Alliance President Reverend Paul Brandeis Raushenbush in New York City. This week, I want to talk directly to you, the listeners, about some of the things that are on my mind right now and what I see as happening in this country. I feel like we are in an inflection point. We're reaching the end of the first 90 days of the Trump-Vance-Musk administration. And this is also coming at the center of the sacred days of both the Christian and the Jewish tradition. And so I really felt like I wanted to speak directly to you because I have some things that I want to convey, and also just wanted to try to communicate my deep respect and my commitment and my love for each of you, and how much we need each other in this moment. And so you're going to be hearing a lot of my voice today, but it'll be interspersed with some really excellent other people's voices, including an amazing interview I did 2 years ago, actually for Easter, with the Right Reverend Marion Buddy, who is the Bishop of Washington, D.C., who was so important on Inauguration Day when she spoke directly to the president about asking for mercy for the most vulnerable, including LGBTQ people and children, as well as immigrants. And she got roundly attacked for that, terribly attacked. But actually, that was a showing and a way of her showing up with bravery. And she, 2 years ago, she talked to us about a new book she had about bravery. And so it's not a surprise that she had the courage to stand up in that moment. We're also going to hear from Rabbi Jonah Pesner, who is the director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, who spoke to us a couple years ago about Passover and the importance of Passover, but also about the history of the RAC, as it's known, the Religious Action Center, how it was formed and how important it was that the RAC was formed in community and has always had a sense of being in community with other traditions as well as other groups. And we need that sense of community and that sense of solidarity right now so much. And so both of those amazing leaders will be hearing their voices. And then on top of all that, we'll be celebrating the long-awaited reopening of Middle Collegiate Church in New York City that was damaged by fire a few years ago, with senior pastor Dr. Jackie Lewis, who will offer us a reflection on Easter and rebirth, which will have meaning for that congregation, but also hopefully for our country. We need these conversations now more than ever. This podcast is featuring voices that need to be heard in this crisis of our democracy, the incredible march towards authoritarianism that we are experiencing. The fact that we are highlighting voices who are speaking up, showing up, informing us how we can show up is so important. So please, if you have not already, subscribe, share, and rate The State of Belief at Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform you are listening to. And just think about who we've had just recently: Representative Eric Swalwell, Catherine Stewart, Michael Eric Dyson. These are amazing people. You can go on our website. You can find past programs or re-listen to the ones you like the best. But then also, you can share those with your friends and let people know, because right now, isolation and a sense of impossibility of being able to show up and withstand what is coming at us is our worst enemy. And the State of Belief is here to create an opportunity for us to hear one another, to grow one another together. And so If you want to give a financial contribution, you can find out how at stateofbelief.com. But this is also something that Interfaith Alliance is offering to the country right now, and we would love for you to come and join us at Interfaith Alliance. And our interfaithalliance.org, you can find out what we're doing. We are showing up in incredible ways. I'm so proud of our team, and we would love for you to be a part of it. So become a member. You can become a member by giving a financial contribution at any level, literally $5. It will make you a member of Interfaith Alliance, but we would love to be in community with you. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can really learn about the actions you can take so that we can, show up for our democracy, show up for our neighbor, and show up for whatever faith tradition or diverse belief you have. We have to show up together right now, because the only way to get through this is to go through it together. And the wider the we, the better, as we were like to say. So thank you for any support you can offer Interfaith Alliance. So I'm going to start off with some really important warning signs that are happening right now that we need to pay attention to, that we need to be aware of. And we need to figure out a way to show up and fight back. The first thing I want to talk about is Kilmar Abrego-Garcia, who lived in Maryland and who was abducted and deported illegally, mistakenly, to El Salvador. And it was acknowledged by the U.S. government, by the Trump administration, that was a mistake. And the Supreme Court eventually heard the case. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that the U.S. had to try to get Kilmar Abrego-Garcia back from the Salvadorian prison. And what we saw recently, earlier this week on Monday, when President Trump met with the president of El Salvador, they basically said, no, we're not going to do it. And this is really important, because this is a test. They're trying to have a test of a case where they refuse to follow the mandates of a law. And they're trying to do it on technicalities, and they're saying we can't, but of course they can. And it's like, I can't remember who was commenting on this. They can talk about annexing Canada, they can talk about invading Greenland, but they can't talk about with the president of El Salvador getting someone who was wrongfully deported back. I mean, forget it. And so this is an attempt to corrode the system of American law. And this is terrible for so many reasons. And we think this is clear. This guy was not supposed to be deported, and the reason this is a religious issue for all kinds of reasons. But the moral, this is a life that was and all the lives who were deported without due process, without any process. This is the slippery slope that they're trying to say, well, these are really bad people. Well, we've already determined that some of them were picked up just because they had a tattoo, wrongfully identified, like this gay barber. But then this guy has no reason to go to El Salvador. He was rightfully in the United States, and he was kicked out. Morally, that's the destruction of lives. And it's terrible for our country. It's terrible for American rule of law. It's also a direct statement that we're not going to obey the rules. And once you start to do that, and once it starts to become familiar, then you are, we're just entering into a different time in American history where the president feels like he doesn't have to do what the law says he has to do. Now, this is compounded by something that Trump said when he was talking to the president of El Salvador. He said, The homegrowns are next. This is a quote. The homegrowns are next. You got to build about 5 more places. It's not big enough. The homegrowns are next. That means that basically Americans who he doesn't like are next. And see, this is where, like, people who are undesirable, we've seen this before. People who are deemed undesirable sent to prisons. Let's not forget, like, sending them out of the country to prisons is a technique. I mean, this in Germany. Auschwitz was in Poland. They sent undesirables outside of Germany, and so we're in a moment where this is a crisis. And I don't mean to be a super bummer, and I don't turn me off yet. But I'm gonna compound this bummer with another bummer, which is something that might be less on the radar. So first of all, we have to speak out about what happened to this one fellow, because it's a test case, and we have to be loud. We have to insist. We have to call your representatives. There was a senator, and I'm blanking on his name. He said, this was a Democratic senator, said, I'm going to go down to El Salvador. I'm going to try to get him released. And we need that kind of energy. Because the moment we say, oh, well, okay, we'll let this slide. Let's fight the next fight and see if it's a better fight. No, this is the fight right now. And so this is compounded, let me just say, by the fact that on Easter Day, we will be observing the 90th day of the Trump administration. And what happened on the inauguration day was that Trump ordered his Secretary of Homeland Security and Secretary of Defense to submit a joint report within 90 days about the conditions at the southern border, with recommendations on additional actions that may be necessary to obtain operational control of the southern border, and including the invocation of the Insurrection Act of 1807. So that was something that Trump actually said on Inauguration Day, January 20th. 90 days later is Easter. So the irony, and this podcast is coming out on Easter. And so hopefully you'll be listening to it then, maybe before, maybe a little bit after. But Trump is going to make a decision about invoking the Insurrection Act. And what the Insurrection Act does is it allows the president to basically use the military to enforce laws. And that, in this case, is around the deportation. And so some of the things that are possible are that the National Guard in various states will be federalized, and the president will be able to direct the National Guard to, declare martial law and begin to help with deportation efforts, including directly confronting sanctuary cities and potentially putting down any sort of protests. So this is a very dangerous moment, and we're there, okay? And we don't know exactly what will happen, and we don't know if it will happen, but many serious people that I'm talking to right now are talking about this. And so I just wanted to, I'm raising this up because it's really important that we also speak up about this. It's related. It's very related. And anyway, so the important thing to remember here is this is so not normal. This is a severe break with tradition. The separation of military and civilian life, especially around civilian law enforcement, is a foundational American tradition. And so to do this, to deploy military troops for mass deportation, which is what he wants to do, is completely unprecedented. It's very extreme. The military has never done this before, does not have the training or the skill to do it. And so what we're seeing is, again, another move towards authoritarianism. And we need to be really clear-eyed about what this could mean. And I'm going to give you a few things that just to keep in mind. And these come from our friends at Indivisible that I think are really important. So you can find this. You can Insurrection Act, Indivisible. You also can find more about this at interfaithalliance.org. But I'm going to give you 5 things or 6 things that you can do about this, and it also pertains to all the stuff with deportation, which is the first is sound the alarm. We need to talk to people about this. So share this podcast, share this information with anybody, with your neighbors. Really make sure that people know that this is potentially happening. Push your representatives at all levels to be aware of this and to challenge this abuse of power. It's super important. The governors have to be challenged. They have to be on alert because they are the ones who are supposed to be able to control the National Guard, which and it maybe hopefully they could prevent this federal takeover of the National Guard. We need to have as much as you can. You can use your platform, whatever, if you're social media or if you like to call people on the phone, let people know about it. The important thing, and I need to learn this one, it's stay calm. We have to be really disciplined in this moment. We are not going to be chaotic. We are going to be powerful. We are going to be joyful. We are going to be defiant. We are going to be non-violent, and we're going to protect each other. Really, really important. We are not going to play into the violent, chaotic narrative, which will give him permission to set the military on us, and we want to make sure that we're aware of the polls. The important thing to remember here, and I'm going to diverge a second about polls. Trump is way underwater with polling on on deportations. He's 11 points under. 42% support him. 53% do not support and do not approve of the deportation to this moment. And add that to a militarization, and I think the bottom's going to fall out. But we have to make sure that we are not playing into his game and his rhetoric. The other thing is flip the script. He wants to stop insurrectionists, but what about the ones he pardoned? The thousands he pardoned who actually attacked our democracy. So let's talk about how the president did not care about the chaos and the attack on our democracy, and actually the attack on police. So don't let him the insurrectionists in this case again comes from inside the house. I think this is a really good one, and I love this. This is from an Indivisible website. You can go there and find this. Use ridicule to deflate his power. And I love that. So mocking him, making sure that this makes him look weak instead of powerful. That's really, really important. And then just recognize that this is a long game. So we have to continue to build infrastructure, build solidarity, and be with one another, and really recognize, show up for our neighbors, reach out to our neighbors, create concentration of people power in your local neighborhood. And so I offer all of that. Okay, I know that was a lot, but it's really important because I really do believe we're at an inflection point with just the attacks on our universities. Harvard actually stood up to the administration and said, no, you're not going to tell us exactly how to do this. And it was wonderful. Trump immediately said, okay, we're going to take away $2 billion from you. Okay, so it's on. Let's see what happens. Let's really, and I will say, right after Harvard did that, the president of Columbia sent out an email and actually talked about pushing back against the administration for the first time. They said, we all read the Harvard message, including the acting president. And she said, we're not going to let them dictate to us what we're going to do. And so higher education under attack, law firms under attack, many of them capitulating, the incredible attack on public education. And I don't know if you heard that, they're going to, now they have DEI. Any student can snitch on a teacher who even a whiff of DEI, which means really anything about like the history of America that includes, the systematic oppression of Black people and others, that will be too DEI. You can just see how this is going to spiral out. Plus, and this, we're going to get, so all of this, we're like Interfaith Alliance is very activated on all of this. There's now this anti-Christian bias EO that Trump did early on. Now in the State Department, basically they're asking people to snitch on one another if they hear anything that is vaguely anti-Christian. And what do they mean by that? This is the most anti-Christian administration that we've ever seen. I mean, this is incredible. All these, attack the Bishop Buddy, attack the Catholic bishops, attack the Lutherans, attack the Quakers, all of them. And including when they shut down DEI, they shut down a Christian affinity group in the State Department. But now the State Department is urging people to snitch on one another if they hear anything that's anti-Christian at all. And you know what that means. It just means anything that's gay. That's pro-gay, that like says maybe, whatever, you can make things up. This is very Orwellian. We're aware of it. So all these attacks are coming on DEI, on all of this. And so this is all happening, but we are in Holy Week. Okay, people. So I just want to say this is an important time to be thinking about this because actually, Holy Week and also Passover and really all of the faith traditions have this moment where incredible power by humans is used to oppress the people. And the story always is about the liberation from the pharaohs or the emperors. In the Christian story, Jesus comes in and he talks about, we have the beloved community. Let's love one another. Let's let love be the foundation of our time together. And yet, they don't like that at all. And so literally on Maundy Thursday, he says, the greatest commandment is love. And then from there on, he gets executed, put into the tomb, and then 3 days later he rises. And so, for some people, they're like, "Oh, okay, he got crucified. That freed my soul. It's done." That's not the way I understand that story. He got crucified, and we all know crucifixions are happening today. Attacks on people are happening today. People are suffering today, and the idea of Easter is that that's not going to have the last word, and that God is not going to let that have the last word. And so, as we think about this moment where a would-be emperor is trying to attack people and really harm people. People are being harmed. I didn't even mention the erasure of trans people, the unbelievable attacks on LGBTQ people, especially trans youth, and all. It is just unbelievable. Anyway, that's not going to, we have to recognize where are we in that story and how are we going to be part of a resurrection. Same with Passover, that's a story of a people who were oppressed and found a way out, found a way towards liberation, found a new way to be with one another. And so I just, in this moment of the holy seasons that we're in, which is different than kind of the birth narratives and it's not Christmas. That's kind of a fun thing, even though they're they're forced refugees and they're out in the barn. But anyway, the point is that these are seasons about liberation. You can hear full episodes of The State of Belief anytime on our website at stateofbelief.com. You'll also find links to topics we discussed this week, as well as transcripts and more. And make sure you subscribe at stateofbelief.com/subscribe. You're listening to The State of Belief, where religion and democracy meet. Welcome back to the State of Belief. I'm Interfaith Alliance President, Reverend Paul Brandeis Raushenbush. I want to share one story with you. This is a personal story. It happened just a couple days ago. So I was scrolling, and that's rough stuff. And I was reading about Kilmar Abrego-Garcia, and I was reading about all of these things that were happening. I was getting more and more furious, and I was just like, and this is like, whatever, like 8:30 at night, and I'm in this room, and right next, door, my kids are, and I hear this thumping, and I hear this loud noise, and it just pissed me off. I was like, these kids need to be going to bed. They're disturbing my fury. And so I kind of stomp out there, and I'm like, and I get there, and one kid is just reading. He's just reading a comic book that he likes. This really great one that has these great stories about strong women, women characters that I love, and then the other one is dancing. And he's dancing to this song that I love. That I don't have no idea how it got on our Alexa. It just must have kind of gotten there eventually. But it's called "You Can't Stop the Beat," and it's at the culmination of a movie that came out a while ago, and then it was on Broadway for a long time, called Hairspray. And it was a John Waters film originally, and then it became a musical. And "You Can't Stop the Beat" is all about like it's about the integration of the Corny Collins Show, which is a dance show in Baltimore in the 60s. And it's actually like kind of a great song. And it's like, "You can't stop the beat." And there I see like my son just jamming. And I had to make a decision. I was like, okay, do I just shut it all down and make him like feel my misery? And make him, everybody just miserable because I'm miserable. But then it was grace, really. I just saw him dancing, and I just went over and I started shaking and shimmering with him. And we, for the next 5 to 7 minutes, we just danced, and it was so like important. I'm going to just read you a couple of the lyrics because you got to understand. It's like it's a light song. It's not like a super protest song, but it's a celebration. It says, "You can't stop the motion of the ocean or the sun of the sky. You can wonder if you wanna, but I never asked why. And you can try to hold me down. I'm going to spit in your eye and say, you can't stop the beat." And then it says, "You can stop the motion of the ocean, the rain from the skies. You can try this to stop the paradise we're dreaming of. But you cannot stop the rhythm of two hearts in love. You cannot stop the beat." And it was like we started dancing. We were going wild. And it just was so important for me. And dancing is not going to solve any of this. But let's remember, like Miriam in the story of the Exodus, if you read the story of the Exodus starts with Miriam dancing with other women, playing cymbals and dancing into the liberation. And you can argue that the Palm Sunday was a parade, whatever. It's just important that we have joy in this moment, and it changed my heart. And I wanted to offer you that because I just think it's important. We're struggling so much, and so many of us are hurting, but just like find joy, find people who give you joy, make space for joy, make space for fun. And the other thing I want to talk about is courage. And I want us to take a moment now. I'm going to play a clip from Bishop Miriam Buddy from 2 years ago. She talked to me on Easter week, and so this is Easter Sunday, and she had just come out with a book about bravery, and she talked to us about bravery, and it's a great insight, but also like what it takes to be brave, but also showing up in moments that require bravery. And we saw that so much with her just saying so gently to the president, "Please have mercy on the most vulnerable." So I want to listen to this message as an Easter message for us this week.
for this time in particular, one of the gifts of what in the sort of the liturgical traditions we call Passion Week or Holy Week, culminating in Easter, is that if you pay attention and if you delve into the story, you're given an image of Jesus that is so compelling and so different from the caricatures we see and hear of him. I mean, here is a man of such profound courage and love and commitment to nonviolence and a willingness to go to the depths of darkness and not condemn those who fail him along the way. And of course, almost everybody does, right? And yet he does not condemn. He walks to the end, even when it wasn't always clear if that was his choice, right? I mean, he asked, like so many of us would, to be spared, and yet he carries forth. He does what he believes God is calling him to do. He surrenders when he feels as if the powers of darkness have it for a time to prevail, trusting that the goodness and the light and the love of God will, in fact, have the final word. And so I think, for those of us who are trying to live a Christian life in a time when even the word Christian can be suspect because of so many ways that the witness is abused. I feel like this season, most of all, gives us really strong, solid ground to stand on, to be proud to follow this man and to follow his light and his love and his message in the world. And when we have to pay our price, but knowing it's nothing compared to the price that he pays and that so many around the world pay for their witness.
I love that, and I love Bishop Buddy, and she's. I just think it's important that people realize she's someone who's really trying to hold people together. Like what she tried to do that day with the president in January 20th, she wasn't trying to pin him down. She was just asking very, very, directly out of her faith tradition, please have mercy and realize there's a wider America, that all of us need a president who sees us. And so it's just really important to recognize that. And I'm going to offer a little bit of a passage from Rabbi Jonah Pesner, who is the director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism. And he talked to me around Passover about the importance of this story of liberation, but that it wasn't just, that the history of the Religious Action Center is not just a history of the liberation of the Jews, but it's also about the intersection with NAACP and all these other groups. And so the founding story of that group is so instructive for us today as we think about what's the widest we can create right now that can help us all feel liberated and inclusive of all. It's going to take all of us. So please enjoy this clip from Rabbi Jonah Pesner.
I often call the Exodus story, the story that we retell every year at our Seder tables at Passover, the master story of the Jewish people. It's kind of like the archetypal narrative that explains who we are and why we are. And, your listeners may know every year, some of them have probably been, whether they're Jewish or not, have been at Seders, which means order. It's the order of the telling of the story. The Haggadah, which is the book we use, literally means the telling. And we're commanded to every year gather as Jews to have this festive meal, and at the meal to retell the story of our exodus from Egypt. It's, of course, the second book of the 5 books of Moses. It's the book of Exodus in both the sacred tradition of the Jewish people, the Christian community, and of course in Muslim scripture as well. And we call it the master story of the Jewish people because when we retell it at our Seder tables, the rabbis say that every person at the table should see themselves as this they themselves were a slave in Egypt, as if they themselves were emancipated and freed, and then they themselves had the experience of freedom. And, Paul, just to build on that, my thesis is when a community tells its story every year in and out, this story of empathy, we're supposed to retell a story that centers ourselves in the narrative of oppression, that we know what it is to be oppressed, and then we know what it is to be freed. When the Haggadah then ends by saying, now let all who are hungry come and eat, it is this radical call to action that because we have experienced hunger, we are to end hunger. Because we've experienced homelessness, we are to end homelessness. Because we experienced enslavement, we are to emancipate all people everywhere.
I have one more voice that I want to introduce into the mix, and that is the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, who is the pastor at Middle Collegiate Church, an amazing church. And she has gone through it, and her congregation has gone through it lately. They had a terrible fire and have been out of their congregation for years, several years. And now they are back in their congregation. Their sanctuary has been rebuilt, and they are back in for the first time for Easter. So let's listen to a reflection that the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis made especially for this moment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Lewis. I'm the Senior Minister and Public Theologian at Middle Church in Manhattan. I'm sending you big love on Maundy Thursday, the time in the Christian calendar that we commemorate Jesus' command for us to love one another as he loves us. This is not a new command, it's an old command, a command that comes from Jesus' scriptures, to love God with everything we have and to love our neighbors as ourselves. So on this day, when we think about the disciples washing each other's feet as Jesus washed theirs, I'm thinking about proof of love. Certainly how we treat our neighbor, proofs that we understand how much God loves us. And I'm also thinking of proof of life. My church, Middle Collegiate Church, suffered a devastating fire 4.5 years ago, and we've been out of our building for 5 years because of COVID. And on Easter Sunday, we are going back home to love, going back home to our building, going back home to a place and a space that you, my neighbors, have helped make possible. You prayed for us. You made tabernacles for us, mishkans for us. You gave us space to be, and you loved on us and made donations and worshiped with us online. I'm so thankful for this space with my friend Paul Raushenbush and all the beautiful work he does in the world and the stories he tells and the meaning making he does. And for this moment to just say, shout out to everybody around the globe who prayed for Middle Church, who helped us rise from the ashes, because that's what love does. Shout out to you and love to you in these difficult times. May you find your people, may you find your heart filled with gladness at knowing that you're connected to another human being, to other human beings, and can you feel the gratitude from our particular community for the way you've loved on us, making space for us, making a place for us in your hearts, in your imaginations, in social media. We love you. God bless and happy Easter.
I want to close by reading the final pages of my children's book called Together We Rise, An Easter Story for All of Us. And so this is the final pages, just has a message that I hope will resonate with each of you today. We rise with God's love that brings us together to love one another. We rise to bring God's promise of justice and freedom to earth as in heaven. We rise to remember that each one of us, especially you who are reading this book or listening to this podcast right now, is a part of God's heart, made in God's image, worthy of dignity and respect. Jesus' great invitation to rise in love continues today for you and for all of us to join together in the beloved community of God here on earth. Hallelujah, Jesus rose, and together we rise. So I hope you feel that this has been an important conversation. I know it felt really good for me to be able to articulate this, and perhaps you know someone out there who would really appreciate this conversation. So please share the State of Belief with them, and please subscribe to the State of Belief at Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. We need your help to keep making the State of Belief, so your financial contributions are always welcome at stateofbelief.com. That's stateofbelief.com. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of Religion News Service or Religion News Foundation. The State of Belief is produced by Ray Kirstein and is a production of Interfaith Alliance. We want you to become a member of Interfaith Alliance, so please go to interfaithalliance.org and become a member. But now I want you all to hear Ray Kirstein's voice. As long as we're just like, listening to me blah, blah, blah the whole time. Ray, I'm going to ask you to actually say something, a message of well-being, however you want to put it. Let the listeners know that you are actually a real person.
Thanks, Paul. Greetings from Germany. I feel kind of safe-ish here and worry about my friends and family a lot. So it's awesome to hear some of the suggestions that you bring, even if they come with some of those horrible headlines. This is a season for hope in my faith tradition, and I really hope that, whatever version of resurrection is available for the country comes as well.
Thank you so much, Ray. And thank you so much. He has been making this show possible for 12 years. I think 12, 13, maybe. I'm just going to say around that, which is a long time. Thank you. So much
14,
gratitude.
14, actually. 14.
14. Okay, see? Even more gratitude. So thank you so much to Ray. And be sure to join us next week. We are going to have an amazing conversation with Amy Spitalnik from the Jewish Council for Public Affairs. She's an amazing speaker, just has a great vision for America and how the fight against anti-Semitism and the fight for democracy go hand in hand. Until then, I'm Paul Brandeis Raushenbush on The State of Belief, where religion and democracy meet.